Hello everyone, welcome to the Cinema Analysis channel. I'm Juzo. This channel will explore the hidden truths of films that are not usually revealed. Today I want to talk about Casablanca. I want to talk about many of the famous quotes from the film. In particular, I want to talk about why Rick the hero doesn't make plans. If you haven't seen the film and don't want to know the story, I suggest you watch the film first before watching this video. So let's get started. It is set in French Casablanca during World War II. Lucky people were able to leave the place via Lisbon to the United States. France, defeated by Germany, managed to keep its sovereignty through negotiations. The national system of France at the time is called Vichy France. The French government had chosen to be a puppet of the Germans. There were French people who insisted to resist against Germany, and one of them is Charles de Gaulle, the later president of France. De Gaulle organized a government in exile called Free France, after he had gone into exile in London. At the beginning of the film, there is a scene where a man is shot. The leaflet in his hand has the words Free France and its logos. The person on the poster in front of the killed man was Philippe Pétain, the head of the Vichy French state at the time. The words on the poster were, "I keep my promises, even those of others. Philippe Pétain, Marshal of France." Right after that, we see the words freedom, equality, fraternity on the courthouse building. What an ironic opening. The reason why the police moved was because two German liaison officers had been killed. What was stolen was the letters of transit, which make escape from Casablanca possible. It is the key to the story. Well, there is a serious contradiction in the story. You got it. The character who stole the letters of transit says that the one who signed the letters was General de Gaulle. De Gaulle was the leader of the hostile forces against Vichy France at the time. The letters of transit signed by him don't have any power. Why did the line become like this? The line, written in a script for a play, "Everybody comes to Rick," is said to have been left unchanged and used in the film. The screenwriters didn't seem to notice the error. The subtitles for the foreign versions are quite different. The French version calls it "Weigand." This must have been used because it sounds like de Gaulle. The letters of transit is so-called the MacGuffin, then it should be interpreted as something that will make your dreams come true. It is very difficult to control the production of a work perfectly and make it perfect. The idea that film is an art created under the perfect control of directors doesn't seem to fit into many films. This film was ordered to contain propaganda factors because it was made during the war. Many anti-German scenes were made for this purpose. However, these propaganda scenes helped to make the work impressive. The script hadn't finished before the shooting began. That's why they say there was a lot of confusion during the shooting. The man chosen by Ilse, the character played by Ingrid Bergman, hadn't been decided. When Bergman asked which man Ilse would choose, Michael Curtis is said to have treated her like an idiot and said, "Ingrid, it's only a film." Michael Curtis is a director, more like a craftsman than an artist. He tried to create better works in conditions of limitation. Even in the unbelievable situation that the script was not finished, he tried to complete the work. That's why he told Ingrid Bergman to act anyway. But it had a wonderful effect. Ilsa is a character who is annoyed by the choice of man. Not knowing which man Ilsa loves made Bergman's performance realistic. Umberto Eco, a semi-audition, described this work as follows. Thus Casablanca is not just one film, it is many films, an anthology. Made haphazardly, it probably made itself, if not actually against the will of its authors and actors, then at least beyond their control. And this is the reason it works, in spite of aesthetic theories and theories of filmmaking. A film is something that is made by many people. Each person has their own value or image. They are not necessarily unified in the creation of works. Of course, directors must have ideal image, but they can't create works exactly as they imagined. The situations of production will be different according to the reasons or conditions of many people. They may work positively or negatively. The final forms of films won't be determined by the intention of certain people such as directors. The situation of production beyond the image of each person will decide the outcome of the films. What Eco wanted to say must be something like this. In the making of this film, various situations are thought to have miraculously produced good effects. One of the conditions that determine whether or not a film is a masterpiece is the presence of impressive expression. Classic works are those that remain in people's memories. This film was made in 1942 during the Second World War. More than 80 years have passed, and this film is still remembered. If surviving the baptism of time is a condition for being a first-class art, there's no film that has survived this one. The lines of this film have been quoted in countless works, and many parodies have been made of this film. Even if there's only one impressive expression, it can make the film worth watching. This film has many memorable scenes and lines. He's looking at you, kid. We'll always have Paris. These two lines are probably familiar to most of you. They express the romantic aspect of Rick, the protagonist of the film. Also, he is a talented man who runs a cafe in Casablanca. At the beginning of the film, Rick comes across as a cynical realist. The character called Ugarte describes Rick as a very cynical person. This conversation with a beautiful girl called Yvonne is famous. Where were you last night? That's so long ago, I don't remember. Will I see you tonight? I never make plans that far ahead. I want to talk about this later. Later, it became clear why Rick had become so cynical. Victor Lazaro, a resistance leader, visited Rick's cafe with his wife. She was Ilsa, whom Rick had once loved. She asked Sam, a pianist, "Play this, Sam. Play as time goes by." Bewildered, Sam played the song as he was asked. Then Rick came and said, "I told you never to play." The countless parodies of this conversation have been made. Rick and Ilsa met again, and she was with her husband, a hero. Rick started to drink, then said to Sam, "You know what I want to hear? You played it for her. You can play it for me." Many people may have mistaken this line for "play it again, Sam." The reason for this is Woody Allen's film, Play It Again, Sam. This is arguably the most famous parody of Casablanca. Although the title is different from the line actually used in the film, it became more famous than the line in the film. Drinking, Rick grumbled. "Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine." This would be an incredibly remote possibility, but one coincidence is allowed in a story. This is also a very famous line. His memories of the old happy days with Ilsa come flooding back. Rick smiles for the first time in the film. In a toast, he says, "He is looking at you, kid." Later, Ilsa tells Rick that she once loved a man before. In the reminiscence scene, as Sam plays as time goes by, Ilsa began to look strange. Ilsa must have known then that her husband was alive. As the Nazi invasion spread, Ilsa said, "You are in danger. You must leave this place." Then Rick replied, No, we must leave." The audience knew something was wrong with Ilsa, but Rick didn't, because his mind was filled with the image of his happy future. I talked about the conversation with Yvonne at the beginning of the film. "Will I see you tonight?" Yvonne asked. Then Rick replied, "I never make plans that far ahead." Why did Rick reply so? There is a clear reason. It is described clearly in the film. That is what I want to talk about most today. Rick proposed to Ilsa, saying, "Why don't we get married at Marseille?" Then she replied, "That's too far ahead to plan." They promised to meet at the station, but Ilsa didn't appear. These two lines are almost identical. This means that Rick was repeating Ilsa's words. Rick, who dreamed of a married life with her, was betrayed. And it is assumed that he must have repeated her words in his mind. Rick used to be a lovely guy, but he became cynical after Ilsa left him. We know this from Ilsa's line. Rick's "I never make plans that far ahead" is foreshadowing. The event that mirrors it is the Ilsa's line in the reminiscence scene. I have never seen any references to it. Presumably, almost no one noticed it. Nobody might have talked about it even though they noticed it. Usually, a foreshadowing is not a completed expression. A foreshadowing itself doesn't impress people. The events that correspond to it makes people notice the meaning of the foreshadowing, and they make people impressed. But the Rick's line at the beginning of the film impresses audience. That may be the reason no one noticed the meaning of Ilsa's line. Alas, let me talk about another hero of this film. It is Captain Louis Renault. Like Rick, he is drawn as a person who is far from being an idealist. He is a man who worked for BC France, who flattered Germany. Later in the film, he offered a deal to a beautiful girl who has run out of money, giving her exit visas in exchange for her body. He is hardly a person for whom the audience has any sympathy. Rick saves her by letting her husband win at the casino in the cafe. Rick finally decides to let Lazaro and Ilsa escape from Casablanca. Ilsa wanted to choose Rick, but he persuades her to help Lazaro, saying, "He is looking at you, kid. We'll always have Paris." It is a series of famous quotes. German Major Strasser came to stop Lazaro's plane taking off. Rick shot him. The police heard the shots and gathered. Renault pretended that he hadn't seen anything and ordered them to round up the usual suspects. He saved Rick. This line also became famous. Renault tried to drink some water, but he threw away the bottle in the bin. This was because he noticed the words of BC water on the label. It represents Renault's change of heart to break with BC France, which was flattering Germany. Bruno decided to join the resistance. With Rick's line, "I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship." The two disappear into the mist and the film ends. There may not be a more memorable film than this one. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked this video, please subscribe and give me thumbs up.